You're slumped on a pile of slightly damp ropes, tied in a way that would hardly hold a laundry bag, let alone a wine god. The pirates haven't quite figured out what to do with you. One suggests selling you, another suggests asking for ransom, though no one has any idea who'd pay for a guy in grape-stained robes muttering to himself about the metaphysical properties of figs. The ship rocks gently, its sails creaking in the mild wind. It's not a large vessel, just big enough to carry a dozen men. A few barrels of pickled herring, and what appears to be a chicken who's made herself captain. She struts confidently across the deck, pausing only to peck anyone who questions her authority. A lanky pirate in mismatched sandals steps forward. You, name. You smile. I'm Dionysus. The crew stares blankly. The name means nothing to them. You try again. God of wine, theater, ecstatic rituals, long walks on the beach. Still nothing. One pirate whispers, sounds made up. Another mutters, wine god? I thought that was Bacchus. That's Roman, someone hisses. Oh. The conversation spirals into a debate about Roman versus Greek gods, which devolves into an argument about whose grandmother makes the best olive loaf. You, meanwhile, lean back on your ropes and enjoy the slight swaying of the boat. It's oddly relaxing, until you realize the ship doesn't just sway. It sort of hiccups. You glance around. No one else notices. Another hiccup. A little lurch to the left. Then right. Then a full body shudder, as if the ship just remembered a bad date from its past. You sniff the air. Wine? That's not normal. The ropes fall off with a shrug. You're not sure if that's your divine power or just shoddy craftsmanship. Either way, you're free. No one notices. They're still arguing about whether dolphins have knees. You stand up and stretch. A barrel winks at you. Not metaphorically, literally. You blink back. The deck tilts again. The mast leans forward slightly, then straightens. The sail flutters like it's laughing. You begin to suspect that your divine presence may be influencing the ship. Historians still argue whether this part of the Dionysian myth is symbolic, perhaps a metaphor for how the gods' chaotic energy could infect and transform even the most rigid structures. Fringe theories suggest that this sentient ship tale came from sailor folklore, a blend of reverence and fear of the sea, and the drinks that went with it. You place a hand on the railing. It feels warm, too warm, like someone poured mulled wine into the grain of the wood. The deck pulses softly beneath your feet. You lean over the edge. That's when you see it. A glint, a glimmer, a sleek gray shape just beneath the water. It circles once, then leaps, and lands, not in the sea, but directly on the deck. The pirates scream. The chicken flaps into a barrel. You blink. A dolphin now stands. Yes, stands, on the deck. Upright, balancing expertly on his tail. His skin gleams like polished silver, and his eyes have the suspicious sparkle of someone who's late for something but won't explain what. He clears his throat. Yes, hello. Terribly sorry to interrupt your kidnapping. The crew stares. You stare. The dolphin waves a fin. Phylon. Pleasure. I seem to have lost my hat. Anyone seen it? Rather wide, sort of floppy, smells of lavender and mild regret. No one answers. One pirate faints. Another clutches a barrel for comfort. The chicken pokes her head out of the top and makes a confused squawk. Phylon turns to you. Oh, Dionysus, old sock. Knew it was you. You've got that wine vapor aura about you. Telltale sign. You tilt your head. Do I know you? Oh no, he says cheerfully. But I know of you. Who doesn't? Big fan. Love your work. Especially that time you turned the nymph into a vine. Classic. You glance at the pirates, who are slowly backing away. One whispers, that's it. I'm never drinking seawater again. Phylon nudges you with a fin. Walk with me. I'd rather swim. You reply. He grins. Even better. With absolutely no regard for gravity, Phylon bounces once, twice, and then flops gracefully into the sea. You shrug, step to the edge, and leap. The water is cool, almost sweet. The kind of seawater that doesn't sting your eyes and somehow makes your hair glossier. You sink, then glide, propelled not by effort but by sheer narrative convenience. Phylon swims beside you, elegant and chatty. So, funny story. I was supposed to deliver a kelp bouquet to a sea nymph engagement party. Took a wrong turn near Crete, ended up in a kelpie poker game, and, poof, lost my hat. Don't suppose you've seen it? You blink slowly. You're the weirdest dolphin I've ever met. Oh, thank you, he beams. I do try. As you swim alongside him, you notice that the sea around you is strangely well lit. Bioluminescent strands of algae shimmer like underwater fireflies. Small fish trail after you in loose formation. One even plays a tiny drum. Is that fish in a band? Underwater jazz, Phylon says, without elaborating. You glide past a cluster of coral shaped suspiciously like reclining chairs. One of them burps. A passing squid offers you a lemon wedge. You decline politely. Where exactly are we going? You ask. Phylon winks. You'll see. Ever dined with a sea god? Your stomach gurgles. You hope it's just the kelp-infused seawater, and not the sense that this is all about to get much, much stranger. You surface, gasping, not because you need to breathe, of course, you're divine, after all, but because Phylon insisted on taking you through an underwater tunnel system that spiraled like a wine corkscrew and smelled faintly of oyster stew. You're pretty sure the last turn you took was into a clam's daydream. The water breaks around your shoulders as you rise into an air pocket, a circular grotto of shimmering stone, lit by a pale blue glow that doesn't seem to come from any one place. Above you, the cave domes like an amphitheater carved from pearl. Around you, soft moss cushions the stone, and there are small seashells arranged very deliberately into the shape of an amphora. A set decorator's touch, perhaps. Phylon pops up beside you with the grace of a practiced dive bar magician. Voila, the dining grotto of Nerus himself. Or it was, until he got promoted to something with more kelp. You swim to the ledge and hoist yourself out, dripping but comfortable. Your robe dries instantly, perks of the divine wardrobe. Phylon slaps the stone with his tail, and a table rises from the floor with an exhausted sigh, as if it's done this far too many times. The table is made of smooth coral, inlaid with mother-of-pearl placemats. Two giant shells open up beside it, revealing seats lined with shimmering sea sponge. You sit. It's oddly plush. Historians still argue whether the Dionysian sea grotto scene reflects an actual mystery cult tradition or was simply a bit of creative license added by later poets who couldn't resist adding talking dolphins and underwater dinner parties. Fringe theories even suggest the setting was inspired by early thalassocratic rituals, where sea deities were honored with staged feasts and symbolic submersions. Phylon climbs into his seat with the elegance of a dolphin pretending to be a debutante. So, he says, tapping the table twice with a fin, how's your day going so far? You sigh deeply. Well, I got kidnapped by pirates who think I'm a traveling robe salesman. Then you showed up. I take that as a compliment, he says, preening. A smaller dolphin, wearing a very small apron, slides into the room carrying 2 trays of glistening sea snacks, pickled jellyfish curls, kelp crisps, and something that might be a salted barnacle croquette. You take a bite. It tastes like vaguely philosophical sea air. Phylon crunches enthusiastically beside you. So, Dionysus, do you ever get bored being a god? You chew slowly. You mean, like now? Exactly. He beams. You look like someone who needs a good distraction. A detour. Something mildly chaotic. You raise an eyebrow. Aren't you the distraction? Only the warm-up act, he says, and clicks his fins together. The walls of the grotto ripple slightly, and the ceiling parts to reveal a swirling vortex of stars. Not sea, not sky, something in between. The table begins to rotate. Soft music, possibly played on conch shells and confused eels, begins to echo around the chamber. Ever heard of the Isles of Echoing? Phylon asks. You shake your head. That's not a real place. He leans forward, eyes twinkling. Most interesting places aren't. Before you can protest, the table spins faster, your seat locks in place, and the grotto tilts gently. You're pretty sure this counts as transportation in divine terms. You grab the edge of the table as the stone walls blur and vanish, replaced by open sea, swirling with streaks of purple and gold. You are, undeniably, being transported by a seafood-themed roller coaster. Somewhere behind you, a hermit crab screams in delight. The rotation slows, and the world settles. You're no longer in a grotto. You're standing, suddenly and quite dry, on the edge of an island shore made entirely of polished sea glass. The sky overhead is lavender. The clouds move sideways, and just down the beach, a group of satyrs appears to be having an argument with a sand sculpture. Phylon appears beside you. Welcome to Distraction Level 2. The island of things that were almost myths. You blink slowly. Almost? Oh yes. All the ideas the poets rejected. Half-finished stories, discarded metaphors, gods that didn't test well with audiences. They come here, to linger, to rehearse. You watch as a centaur-shaped bush shuffles by, muttering lines from a forgotten tragedy. A squirrel in a toga recites poetry to a sponge. A pair of statues, identical except for one missing an ear, appear to be in the middle of a dramatic breakup. I thought you were taking me to dinner, you murmur. This is dinner, Phylon replies. For your brain, for your divine sense of whimsy. And trust me, this place is better than any amphora of wine. You watch as a cloud lowers itself like a gondola and picks up a group of napping harpies. Are they? Yes, Phylon confirms. They nap on weekdays. You take a few steps forward, your sandals clicking softly on the sea glass. This island, this impossible place, is filled with strange comfort. It doesn't ask questions. It doesn't test your power. It just exists, a bubble of oddity in a sea of seriousness. Why'd you bring me here? You ask, not unkindly. Phylon flicks his tail. Because sometimes, even gods need a day off. And sometimes, that day off includes talking dolphins, slightly sarcastic snacks, and a sand sculpture that recites limericks. You smile, for the first time all day. And somewhere behind you, the satyrs finally convince the sand sculpture to play charades. The sand sculpture is, surprisingly, a terrible charades partner. Despite being, well, sand, it somehow manages to gesture with all the fluidity of a reluctant marble column. You watch as one satyr shouts it's clearly Orpheus in a canoe, while the other falls dramatically onto the glassy beach in despair. Phylon, meanwhile, has produced a cup of something faintly luminescent. He offers you one. You sniff it. Smells like pear, lightning, and the first hour of spring. It's called Echo Punch, he says casually. Tastes like your own thoughts. You take a cautious sip. It's nostalgic, like the feeling you get when you remember a party you haven't thrown yet. A breeze picks up, not from any wind you can feel, but from a memory of wind, gentle and warm, like it borrowed its temperature from a childhood picnic and decided to whisper secrets to your hair. You glance up. The sky is now dotted with slow-moving constellations, actual star creatures, lazily rearranging themselves. One group is playing a game of celestial hopscotch. Another is forming what looks like a cow mid-sneeze. Phylon follows your gaze. They rehearse on Tuesdays. You shake your head, amused. And this place? It just exists for, what? Amusement? Not quite, he says. This island was created by dreams. Not yours, or mine, but the collective imagination of those who almost remembered something. The unfinished epics, the half-sung songs. The myths that fell asleep halfway through. Historians still argue whether myth islands like this were meant as metaphors for the evolving oral traditions of ancient Greece, or merely whimsical devices used by storytellers to explain gaps in the record. Fringe archaeomythologists, yes, that's a real group, believe that such spaces were referenced obliquely in pre-Homeric ritual chants found near the Cyclades. One satyr waves you over. Hey, you want to play a game? You're about to decline when he shouts, it's called, Which Goat Ate the Lyre? You pause. You do love a good guessing game. As it turns out, the goat in question, an elderly creature named Pelops, no relation, ate the lyre by accident while trying to chew on the concept of sound. You're still not sure how that works, but the satyrs give you a garland crown for your insightful vibes. and one offers you a small horn filled with honeyed dates shaped like miniature helmets. You munch on a date and turn to Phylon. Is this what you do all day? Hop into dreams? Host inter-realm beach games? Phylon's tail flicks. I freelance. You both laugh, but it's the kind of laugh that drifts upward like bubbles, not really meant for the air, more for the water or the sky, or wherever in between this place sits. A low hum begins to vibrate beneath your feet. The sea glass starts to shimmer, not just reflect. The horizon folds a little, like a soft crease in a parchment map. Ah, Phylon says, here comes the ferry. You frown. The ferry to where? He shrugs. Don't know yet, but it's best not to stay in one dream too long. You'll start picking up the accents. You glance around. A talking vine is attempting stand-up comedy. Two clouds are arm wrestling. A trio of dryads is teaching an oyster to knit. Maybe Phylon's right. You follow him down a winding path of shimmering stones. It leads to a dock, though calling it a dock is generous. It's more like a polite arrangement of driftwood tied together with seaweed and optimism. A bell rings softly, though no one appears to have rung it. Out of the mist glides the ferry. It is not what you expect. It is shaped like a fish. A really large, suspiciously rectangular fish. Its eyes blink slowly, as if trying to remember your face. Its fins double as oars, flapping in time with no beat at all. You turn to Phylon. Is it alive? Only emotionally, he replies. You step aboard. The deck feels squishy, but stable. A few other passengers are already here. One appears to be a statue of a philosopher playing solitaire. Another is a small tornado in a toga, humming a lullaby. Phylon does not join you. I'm allergic to this particular ferry, he explains. Side effect of an unfortunate bet with the hippocampus. But I'll see you later. You hesitate. Where does it go? He grins. Somewhere story-shaped. The ferry shudders once and begins to move. As you drift away from the island of almost myths, the air around you thickens, not unpleasantly, but like a fog made of velvet and half-forgotten bedtime tales. The constellations wave goodbye, one forming a winking face as a parting joke. You lean against the railing and close your eyes. The ferry hums softly beneath you, the melody oddly familiar. It's the tune of a children's chorus from some far-off hilltop village. Maybe one you blessed in the spring with grapevines and laughter. You are, for the first time in centuries, unsure of what comes next. And that, you think, is exactly what you needed. Not metaphorically, though there's plenty of that happening too, but quite literally, aboard a large emotion-sensitive ferry-fish slicing softly through dream water. The sky above has softened to a pale amber. You suspect it's either sunrise or a very optimistic sunset. The passengers remain mostly quiet. The statue of the philosopher has moved on from solitaire to quietly trying to eat a deck of cards. The mini tornado has settled into a slow spin, its toga wrapped tidily, humming the same lullaby on a loop. You suspect it's stuck in a musical groove from several lifetimes ago. Somewhere, faint harp music plays. There's no harpist in sight. You turn to the ferry's rail and rest your arms. The water below is transparent and deep, revealing passing glimpses of things that aren't quite sea life. A herd of translucent turtles strolls on the seabed. A school of fish shaped like punctuation marks darts by exclamation points chasing ampersands. A sleeping kraken floats past, curled like a baby. It waves one lazy tentacle. The ferry shifts. The change is subtle. A small tilt, a polite suggestion of get ready. Ahead, a shoreline forms, dark rocks shaped like question marks, and trees growing in neat rows along the hills beyond. Not just any trees, though. These are grapevines trained into columns, sculpted into letters, almost forming words if you squint. It smells like warm stone, fermented berries, and the sticky residue of ancient gossip. The dock approaches. It's sturdier than the last, made of limestone and faded regrets. You disembark with the philosopher statue in the tornado, though the latter gets caught in a breeze and whirls off toward the treetops in a gleeful spin. Ahead lies the vineyard of forgotten festivals. According to fringe sources, mostly forgotten temple graffiti and a suspiciously poetic fragment found in a Rhodian fish market. This vineyard was a place where retired celebrations were gently stored, their songs pressed into wines, their dances carefully folded into the soil. Mainstream scholars roll their eyes at the idea, but historians still argue whether some of the rural Dionysian cults may have attempted seasonal dream preservation through ritual drunken memory loss. It's exactly as orderly as it sounds. You walk through rows of vines bearing fruit that shimmer with faint musical notes. Each bunch vibrates slightly, some in rhythm, some off-key. A grape falls near your foot and emits a tiny ta-da before rolling into the grass. A tall figure waits for you near the entrance gate, her robe a shimmering mosaic of pale green and wine dark red. Her hair is tied with strings of dried fig, and her necklace appears to be made of corks from amphorae long since shattered. "Ah," she says, smiling. "You're early for once." You blink. "Have we met?" She cocks her head. "No. But that hasn't stopped you before." Classic vineyard logic. She gestures for you to follow. Her name, you learn, is Agalia, and she's something between a memory curator and a professional revelry archivist. Her job is to tend to the rows of retired festivals, make sure the grapevines don't over-ripen into myth, and keep the local satyrs from bottling the past into novelty wine coolers. She leads you down one of the vine paths. To your left, the festival of lantern juggling. To your right, a row of grapes from the feast of the three-headed goat choir, discontinued due to excessive bleeding. You taste a grape and get a flash of music, laughter, and someone in a toga arguing with a goat over rhythm. Some festivals age better than others, Agalia notes, plucking a grape and pressing it lightly between her fingers. A thin strand of song hums from the juice. Farther along, you find a shadowy pergola. Beneath it, ancient masks hang, comedy, tragedy, confusion, mild social anxiety. Each festival, Agalia explains, had its own signature mask, worn at dusk during a final procession. You try one on. It feels oddly familiar, like slipping into your high school personality for a moment just to see if it still fits. It does, Agalia says, but you've outgrown it. Mostly. A soft bell chimes in the distance. That means the memory cask is ready, she says, leading you into a cave-like structure tucked into the vineyard's edge. Inside, the walls pulse faintly with song. Large casks, carved from petrified figwood, line the space, each labeled in looping script, Festival of Cucumber Songs, 3rd Annual Dewdrop Parade, the Night of No Left Feet. She uncorks one. A swirl of melody and laughter escapes like incense. "Want to taste it?" she offers. You hesitate, then nod. She pours a drop into a shallow bronze cup. You sip, and suddenly, you're somewhere else. It's dusk. You're on a hill, torch in hand, surrounded by revelers. Music flares. Your heart is full of song. You laugh. You spin. Someone hands you bread that tastes like spring. Someone else tries to crown you with laurel but ends up with a wreath of parsley. You blink, and you're back in the cave. The taste lingers. Nostalgia and time. These festivals, Agalia murmurs, were never meant to be lost. Just set aside, like dreams you wake from and think you'll remember later. You nod, a little dazed. "I could bottle your day," she says suddenly. "Just a drop. The pirate ship, the dolphin, the island of almost myths." You think about it, then shrug. Why not? She lifts a tiny vial from a shelf and waves her hand over it. A faint shimmer, a sound like distant bells, and your experience condenses into one gleaming droplet. She corks it gently, labels it, "The Day Dionysus Got Distracted by a Talking Dolphin." You smile. You leave the vineyard, light on your feet, heart strangely full. Back on the beach, the ferry-fish waits, humming a quiet melody. You board without question. The ferry sails deeper into the mythic folds of whatever this is, and you begin to wonder if the boat itself is dreaming. The planks underfoot seem slightly warmer now, pulsing with a heartbeat just slow enough to lull your senses. Clouds drift low overhead, shaped like ambiguous punctuation, somewhere between question marks and spirals. The sky hums faintly in a minor key. No one else is aboard. Even the philosopher statue has wandered off, possibly to teach a cloud seminar on paradoxes. The ferry glides on, unbothered. You're alone with your thoughts, your dolphin-etched memory stone tucked in your pocket like a lucky coin, and a vague prophecy about laughter arriving in triplicate. Which is when the island appears. You see it far ahead, long before you're certain it's real, a slice of land curved like a smile, with a golden haze hovering above it. 3 arches mark the shoreline, stacked beside each other like consecutive doorways. The first made of reeds, the second of driftwood, the third of sun-bleached bones, cheerful bones, probably. As you approach, the wind carries a sound, laughter. Not loud, not manic. Just soft, rippling, and strange. It echoes 3 times before fading. The prophecy clicks into place like the world's most whimsical riddle. You step off the ferry onto sand so fine it squeaks softly with each footfall. The arches loom ahead, delicate but firm. You walk through the first, reeds rustling like whispered jokes. Then the second, driftwood creaking as though someone just told it something scandalous. Then the third, and the bone arch lets out a hollow chuckle that's either playful or deeply sarcastic. Beyond lies a grove of olive trees, their trunks twisted in dance poses. Each one has a small clay mask hanging from its branches. The masks are of all kinds, comic, tragic, confused, gently smug. They sway in the breeze, their hollow eyes watching kindly. A soft path leads you onward, and just as your footsteps grow quieter, the trees part. And there he is, Dionysus, not in grand god mode, not crowned in ivy and surrounded by revelers. No, he's sitting barefoot on a mossy boulder, feeding grapes to a talking dolphin lounging in a puddle beside him. The dolphin is wearing a headband. They both look up as you approach. "You're late," says the dolphin. You blink. "Was I expected?" Dionysus shrugs. "You arrived exactly when the story needed you." Which is either perfect timing or a complete accident. Hard to tell. He pats the rock beside him. "Sit. Have a grape. Don't trust them." You sit. You eat a grape. It tastes like summer memories you never had. "So," you say slowly, "this whole thing, the boat, the philosopher, the oracle, was to get here?" The god of wine, theater, and other extracurriculars nods thoughtfully. "I needed a break. Too many festivals, too much seriousness about joy. People try so hard to manufacture wildness these days. It's exhausting. So I left. To talk to a dolphin?" The dolphin sighs. "He promised me snacks and gossip. I deliver both." Dionysus leans back against the boulder. His hair is a tangle of gold and grapevine, his robe something between silk and poorly folded napkin. His energy? Very demigod on a sabbatical. "I used to thrive in chaos," he says. "But lately, it's all scheduled rebellion. No mystery, no delightful disarray. Just influencers in laurel crowns shouting about authenticity." He looks at you, eyes twinkling with exhaustion and amusement. "So I planted a myth. A small one. Let it drift out like a bottle at sea, hoping someone curious and mildly foolish would follow it." You hold up your dolphin memory stone. He grins. "You kept the souvenir. Good." The dolphin snorts. "He gives those to everyone." "Not true," Dionysus protests. "Sometimes I hand out interpretive dance lessons instead." The sun dips lower in the sky, casting gold over the olive trees. A gentle silence settles in, comfortable, like friends who don't need to fill the air. Eventually, Dionysus speaks again. "You're not here to fix anything. Just to witness. Sometimes that's enough. Myths only matter if someone remembers them." You nod. It makes sense in that weird dream logic way. You've been swept through story after story, and somehow this, the god of chaotic joy quietly tending to his own myth, is the most grounded moment yet. He tosses you a grape. "You want a favor, by the way?" Gods usually grant favors at this point. You think for a moment. "I don't want to wake up yet." He smiles. "Good answer." The dolphin clears its throat. He'll grant it, but it'll be wrapped in metaphor and smell faintly of cinnamon. "Quiet, fish," Dionysus murmurs fondly. "I'm a mammal. Barely." You laugh. All 3 of you do. And there it is, the triple laugh. Echoed softly by the trees, returned by the arches, stored gently in the bones. It's not a climax, not a twist, just joy. And that's enough. The ferry glides once more, this time with a little more purpose. You feel it in the way the deck hums beneath your feet, as if it now knows your weight, your rhythm, maybe even your playlist preferences. You lean against the soft railing and watch as the vineyard shore recedes, rows of festival vines blurring into musical mist. A gallia waving with one hand and sipping from a goblet with the other. There's something about traveling through dreamscapes that's both comforting and completely untrustworthy. Nothing here stays solid for long. You spot the philosopher statue again, now somehow playing chess against itself, frowning at each move with increasing suspicion. A tiny satyr has boarded too, dragging a suitcase and wearing sunglasses. He nods at you like you're regulars on the same commute. The sky overhead flickers, as if the scene is buffering. And then, land, not the gently whimsical sort you've become used to. This shore is steep and craggy, the color of old pottery shards. Trees twist along the cliffs, their branches shaped like question marks. A long, spiraling staircase has been carved into the rock, leading up toward what looks like a temple perched at the summit. The ferry doesn't dock this time. It just nudges the water politely against a smooth boulder and then shimmers itself into a pause. You step off and find yourself face to face with a sign. Welcome to the Oracle's backup location, Est. Somewhere between now and then. You start climbing. The steps are strangely warm beneath your feet, like they remember every person who's ever walked them. As you ascend, whispers begin to trail along the path, soft voices, fragments of predictions, poetry tangled with possibility. You will eat olives while contemplating regret. A bird will insult your hairstyle. Do not engage. Beware of men named Strophilos. They're always late. You can't help but chuckle. At the top, the temple is smaller than expected, almost cozy. Built from sun-warmed marble, its columns curl inward slightly, as if leaning in to hear better. A cat lounges near the entrance. It looks up, blinks once, and resumes its nap with great purpose. Inside, silence. And then, from the shadows, a voice. Oh, it's you. You squint. A figure steps forward. A woman, maybe, or a cloud with opinions. Her eyes are silver, her hair a flowing curtain of stardust and spilled tea. She's sipping something from a carved stone cup and wearing a shawl that flickers between leopard print and thundercloud. Welcome to the Oracle Annex, she says. Main branch was overrun by time tourists. We had to decentralize. You introduce yourself, or try to. She waves your name away like it's too loud. Everyone's name is a metaphor here, she mutters. You're the one who arrived via dolphin and questionable impulse. Fair enough. She leads you deeper into the temple. There are shelves of glowing scrolls, bowls of moonlight, and a ceiling mural of events that haven't happened yet but might, depending on weather. So, she says, what truth are you hoping to ignore today? You blink. Is that usually how this works? Oh yes. Nobody comes to an oracle for actual answers. They come to get a poetic version of what they already suspect. She ushers you to a low bench and hands you a steaming cup of something thick and green. Tastes like truth. Awful, but nutritious. You sip. It tastes like spinach mixed with regret and a dash of stardust. She closes her eyes and begins to hum, a tune with no melody, just rhythm and sighs. The walls pulse faintly. The air thickens. The cat from outside strolls in and curls up beside you, purring softly in iambic pentameter. And then she speaks. You seek Dionysus, or rather, he seeks himself. You're just a helpful detour. That tracks. His distraction, she continues, was no accident. He is the god of joyful chaos, but lately, even chaos needs structure. A talking dolphin, a drifting ferry, an island made of myths, all signs. Signs of what? That he's bored, and when gods get bored, the stories fray. So he sends out a ripple, a myth within a myth, to see who follows it. You, in this case. You frown. So, I'm not the main character? She laughs softly. Oh dear. In Greek myths, no one is. Not for long. She leans closer, her voice lowering to a sleepy hush. Here's what you need to know. Follow the shadow of the echo. Seek the place where laughter waits 3 times before arriving. That's where he'll be. You try to process that. The cat sneezes, possibly in agreement. Oh, she adds, and take this. She hands you a small object, a pebble carved with a spiral and the faint image of a dolphin wearing a laurel crown. Memory stone, she explains. For when you forget why you started. You step back outside, slightly dizzy, definitely caffeinated with truth. The steps down are shorter than you remember. Maybe they've grown tired of philosophy. Back at the shoreline, the ferry nods its metaphorical head. You board. As it pulls away, you look back at the temple. The oracle waves once, then vanishes like a sigh in reverse. The wind picks up. You're heading somewhere new, and in the distance, faint and echoing, laughter. Not yours. Not yet. But soon. The ferry glides once more, this time with a little more purpose. You feel it in the way the deck hums beneath your feet, as if it now knows your weight, your rhythm, maybe even your playlist preferences. You lean against the soft railing and watch as the vineyard shore recedes, rows of festival vines blurring into musical mist. A gallia waving with one hand and sipping from a goblet with the other. There's something about traveling through dreamscapes that's both comforting and completely untrustworthy. Nothing here stays solid for long. You spot the philosopher statue again, now somehow playing chess against itself, frowning at each move with increasing suspicion. A tiny satyr has boarded too, dragging a suitcase and wearing sunglasses. He nods at you like you're regulars on the same commute. The sky overhead flickers, as if the scene is buffering. And then, land, not the gently whimsical sort you've become used to. This shore is steep and craggy, the color of old pottery shards. Trees twist along the cliffs, their branches shaped like question marks. A long, spiraling staircase has been carved into the rock, leading up toward what looks like a temple perched at the summit. The ferry doesn't dock this time, it just nudges the water politely against a smooth boulder and then shimmers itself into a pause. You step off and find yourself face to face with a sign. Welcome to the Oracle's backup location, Est. Somewhere between now and then. You start climbing. The steps are strangely warm beneath your feet, like they remember every person who's ever walked them. As you ascend, whispers begin to trail along the path, soft voices, fragments of predictions, poetry tangled with possibility. You will eat olives while contemplating regret. A bird will insult your hairstyle. Do not engage. Beware of men named Strophalos. They're always late. You can't help but chuckle. At the top, the temple is smaller than expected, almost cozy. Built from sun-warmed marble, its columns curl inward slightly, as if leaning in to hear better. A cat lounges near the entrance. It looks up, blinks once, and resumes its nap with great purpose. Inside, silence. And then, from the shadows, a voice. Oh, it's you. You squint. A figure steps forward. A woman, maybe, or a cloud with opinions. Her eyes are silver, her hair a flowing curtain of stardust and spilled tea. She's sipping something from a carved stone cup and wearing a shawl that flickers between leopard print and thundercloud. Welcome to the Oracle Annex, she says. Main branch was overrun by time tourists. We had to decentralize. You introduce yourself, or try to. She waves your name away like it's too loud. Everyone's name is a metaphor here, she mutters. You're the one who arrived via dolphin and questionable impulse. Fair enough. She leads you deeper into the temple. There are shelves of glowing scrolls, bowls of moonlight, and a ceiling mural of events that haven't happened yet but might, depending on weather. So, she says, what truth are you hoping to ignore today? You blink. Is that usually how this works? Oh yes. Nobody comes to an oracle for actual answers. They come to get a poetic version of what they already suspect. She ushers you to a low bench and hands you a steaming cup of something thick and green. Tastes like truth. Awful, but nutritious. You sip. It tastes like spinach mixed with regret and a dash of stardust. She closes her eyes and begins to hum, a tune with no melody, just rhythm and sighs. The walls pulse faintly. The air thickens. The cat from outside strolls in and curls up beside you, purring softly in iambic pentameter. And then she speaks. You seek Dionysus, or rather, he seeks himself. You're just a helpful detour. That tracks. His distraction, she continues, was no accident. He is the god of joyful chaos, but lately, even chaos needs structure. A talking dolphin, a drifting ferry, an island made of myths, all signs. Signs of what? That he's bored, and when gods get bored, the stories fray, so he sends out a ripple, a myth within a myth, to see who follows it. You, in this case. You frown. So, I'm not the main character? She laughs softly. Oh dear. In Greek myths, no one is. Not for long. She leans closer, her voice lowering to a sleepy hush. Here's what you need to know. Follow the shadow of the echo. Seek the place where laughter waits 3 times before arriving. That's where he'll be. You try to process that. The cat sneezes, possibly in agreement. Oh, she adds, and take this. She hands you a small object, a pebble carved with a spiral and the faint image of a dolphin wearing a laurel crown. Memory stone, she explains. For when you forget why you started. You step back outside, slightly dizzy, definitely caffeinated with truth. The steps down are shorter than you remember. Maybe they've grown tired of philosophy. Back at the shoreline, the ferry nods its metaphorical head. You bored. As it pulls away, you look back at the temple. The oracle waves once, then vanishes like a sigh in reverse. The wind picks up. You're heading somewhere new, and in the distance, faint and echoing, laughter. Not yours. Not yet. But soon. You don't leave right away. Something about this clearing, this grove of grinning masks, a god half reclined on a mossy boulder, and a sarcastic dolphin keeping time with its tail, makes you feel like you've reached the soft core of the story. It's warm here, both in temperature and tone, like slipping under a weighted blanket made of well-aged myth. Dionysus offers you a fig. It's perfectly ripe, and when you bite into it, it tastes faintly of fermented starlight and late-night decisions. So, you say, licking juice from your fingers, what happens next? He stretches, flexing his toes and sighing like someone who has successfully avoided 5 meetings in a row. Nothing dramatic, no battles, no monsters, no revelations carved into mountainsides. Just the middle part of the myth, the part where you wander a little. You blink. I thought we were already wandering. He chuckles. No, that was the narrative scaffolding. This, he gestures to the grove, the dolphin. The faint rustle of mask-laden trees. This is the gentle spiral inward. The part the poets skip because it doesn't rhyme. You lie back on the grass. It smells like crushed herbs and laundry left in the sun. Above, the olive trees sway. One of the masks begins humming a lullaby in an undecipherable dialect, possibly Aeolian, possibly Dolphinese. Dionysus points toward the horizon. There's a place just past here, through the olive grove, over a soft ridge. An amphitheater where no one performs anymore. But it remembers. What does it remember? The pauses, the quiet between lines, the coughs of nervous actors, the last echo before applause. It remembers the space between the drama. You sit up, slowly. Is that where you're headed? He shakes his head. Already been. Left a pair of sandals there by mistake, but I think they've found a better life as nesting material. The dolphin flips onto its side. It's also where the stories go when they're too tired to be retold. Sort of a narrative hospice. You raise an eyebrow. Too dark? The dolphin asks. A little, you admit. But accurate, Dionysus adds, twirling a grape on his fingertip. He waves vaguely toward a footpath, one barely visible in the dappled grass. You'll want to go there. Not for answers, just for the acoustics. You stand. Your limbs feel looser now, like the myth has massaged your bones into a state of pliable serenity. Dionysus pats your shoulder. When you get there, speak softly. The theater likes a whisper. You offer a small bow, not because he's a god, but because it feels right, like a thank you at the end of a weirdly helpful dream. You follow the path. It winds through olive trees and sleepy vines. Birds sing here, but in rounds, as if the whole grove is musically coordinated. A pair of goats step aside politely to let you pass. One of them is wearing an earring. Eventually, the trees part, and there it is, the amphitheater. It's carved into a gentle slope, built from stone so old it's grown moss eyebrows. The stage is a circle of polished limestone, cracked in only the most poetic ways. The seats rise in quiet tiers, and though they're empty, you feel watched, but kindly, like the stories themselves are curious. You sit in the front row. The wind curls across the stage and brushes your hair. It doesn't speak words, but it carries memory. Not yours, just ambient, timeless recollections. Applause, laughter, a long pause before a forgotten punchline. You lean forward and whisper something silly, perhaps a line you made up on the ferry. Or a joke about Dionysus's sock collection. The air listens, and then, gently, the echo returns it, not mocking, just softly amused. You lie back on the cool stone and close your eyes. This amphitheater doesn't demand performance. It welcomes presence. Historians still argue whether Dionysian theater was meant to provoke or pacify. Whether the masks were invitations or barriers. Whether the madness was divine or just well-organized chaos. But lying here, in this half-forgotten echo chamber of myth, it doesn't matter. You feel something between you and the skies. Maybe it's the fig, maybe it's the olive mask lullaby still playing faintly in your ears. Maybe it's knowing that Dionysus didn't need saving, and neither did you. Not every quest is a crescendo. Some just taper gently into meaning. After a while, the shadows grow longer. You stretch, slowly, and stand. You turn once, bowing again, not to the god this time, but to the space. The memory, the gentle hush of untold stories. You follow the path back. The dolphin is gone. The boulder is empty. But a line of grape skins leads toward the shoreline, like trail markers left by someone unbothered by neatness. The ferry waits. You board. No oars, no sails. Just momentum, powered by myth and mild curiosity. The ferry begins to move. Somewhere behind you, laughter echoes. Just once, this time. A final exhale. You smile, and the ferry carries you onward, toward whatever the next chapter dreams up. The ferry rocks gently as it glides away from the island, the fading laughter folding softly into the evening breeze. You lean against the rail, letting the slow sway and rhythmic lapping of water steady your breath. Around you, the sky deepens into the kind of twilight that invites stories but also quiet reflection. The smell of salt mingles with the faint scent of crushed herbs still clinging to your clothes, a reminder that some things from the grove have followed you here. As the stars begin to punctuate the dusk, your thoughts drift to the ancient mariners who once navigated these waters. You imagine a Greek trireme slicing through the Aegean, its rowers sinking their oars to the call of a helmsman. Ships like these weren't just instruments of war or trade, they were the lifelines of culture and myth, ferrying tales between islands and continents. You remember reading that the earliest Greek sailors believed their vessels were alive, imbued with spirits to protect them from the whims of Poseidon's temper. Historians still argue whether this personification was spiritual reverence or simply a poetic way to understand an unpredictable sea. As you watch the waves shimmer, you spot a flicker beneath the surface, a flash of silvery light darting close to the ferry's hull. The talking dolphin, of course. You smirk, imagining the creature chuckling underwater, perhaps gossiping with a school of fish about the latest divine antics. Dolphins held a special place in Greek mythology, often seen as guides for souls and saviors of shipwrecked sailors. They were both gentle companions and mysterious messengers. Oddly enough, some scholars debate whether these aquatic beings were originally human heroes transformed, or symbols crafted to represent the unpredictable grace of the sea itself. Your gaze follows the dolphin's playful arcs as it disappears into the twilight depths. The ferry's steady motion lulls you closer to sleep, but before you drift completely, you recall the curious detail about Dionysus's sandals left behind in the amphitheater. Those forgotten tokens turned nesting materials. It strikes you how myths often hinge on such small, whimsical details: a misplaced sandal, a chance meeting with a sarcastic dolphin, a grove that remembers laughter. You realize stories like these aren't about grand battles or cosmic destinies. They're about the quiet spaces where gods and mortals meet, sometimes awkwardly, sometimes with unexpected joy. The stars multiply overhead, soft and steady, like pinpricks of ancient light guiding you home. And as the ferry carries you through the calm night, you feel wrapped in the gentle embrace of a myth told not for spectacle, but for the slow, soothing ritual of remembering. You wake, or perhaps you drift back from sleep, to the gentle rocking of the ferry and the soft call of distant seabirds. The sky is now a deep indigo, studded with stars that shimmer like tiny lanterns hung by unseen hands. The air is cool and crisp, carrying whispers of salt and olive groves far behind you. Your mind wanders to the notion of ancient journeys, those not just across the sea, but across time, myth, and memory. You think of Odysseus, whose long voyage home was as much about storytelling as it was about survival. You might recall that Homer's epics were originally performed aloud, in slow, deliberate rhythms designed to mesmerize listeners by night's fire. A bedtime story for the ages, really, though not one you'd want to live through. Historians still argue whether Homer himself ever existed or was a collective name for generations of bards weaving tales together, but either way, the power of these stories to soothe and captivate is undeniable. You trace the constellation of Delphinus, the dolphin, high above, and the irony isn't lost on you. After all, it's a dolphin that guided you here. You smile softly, remembering the Talking Dolphin's dry wit and surprisingly sharp insights. Perhaps the ancients weren't so wrong about dolphins being guides, whether of souls, of stories, or of sleepy travelers. As you lean on the ferry's railing, the surface of the water reflects the stars like a liquid sky. Somewhere beneath, the currents shift quietly, carrying memories of festivals where wine flowed freely and laughter filled the air until dawn. You think about Dionysus again, not the wild party god you expected, but this quietly amused figure, taking breaks and sharing grapes with dolphins. Maybe that's the real essence of his myth, finding joy in the small, unremarkable moments, the pauses between the chaos. Your eyelids grow heavy once more. The ferry's hum syncs with your heartbeat, slow and steady. A faint breeze carries the scent of distant pine and seaweed, wrapping around you like a gentle lullaby. You wonder how many myths started simply as someone's attempt to explain a strange encounter. A lost sandal, or a peculiar laugh in the dark. Maybe that's the best kind of story, the one that carries you softly, through shadows and stars, toward rest. The ferry's steady rhythm cradles you as you continue your voyage through this mythic landscape, where the boundaries between reality and legend blur just enough to keep you comfortably adrift. You gaze out over the shimmering water, now turning a deep navy blue under the moonlight, and feel the weight of countless ancient nights pressing gently against your thoughts. Your mind drifts to the ritual of ancient Greek theater, itself born from Dionysian worship. Imagine crowds gathering in open-air amphitheaters, the stone seats cold beneath their bodies, awaiting tales woven with tragedy and comedy, the two faces of the same mask. It's strange to think that these performances, filled with gods and heroes, were also a kind of communal dreaming, a slow exhale of shared anxieties and hopes. Historians still debate whether the audience was meant to be shocked into catharsis or gently lulled into reflection, but either way, the experience was immersive, slow, and, in its own way, profoundly relaxing. You shift slightly, recalling how the chorus's song, half chant, half meditation, would rise and fall in waves, like this ferry's own gentle rocking. The ancient Greeks might have found their own kind of sleep in the rhythm of those verses, a sleep punctuated by laughter and tears. Beneath the surface of the water, a flicker of light catches your eye. Another dolphin, or perhaps the same one, arcs gracefully through the sea. You imagine it as a messenger between worlds, ferrying not just gods and myths, but also moments of calm and wonder. You smile at the thought. After all, who better to guide you through a sleepy story than a creature known for its playful intelligence and soothing presence? The night deepens. The scent of salt and pine weaves around you like a soft blanket. Somewhere in the distance, an owl hoots, a reminder that even the night has its storytellers. As your eyelids grow heavy once again, you find comfort in the knowledge that myths are, at their core, gentle companions for the long, quiet hours. They are the slow turning of pages in a book read softly by a fire. And so, you surrender to the sway of the fairy and the soft hum of ancient tales, drifting further into a world where gods converse with dolphins, and laughter lingers in the olive-scented air. The soft rocking of the ferry slows as dawn's first light tiptoes across the horizon, painting the sea in gentle shades of pink and gold. You stretch, feeling the cool morning air brushing your skin and carrying with it the faint aroma of wild thyme and salt. The world seems to hold its breath in this quiet moment, like a stage waiting for the next act to unfold. Your thoughts wander to the curious rituals surrounding Dionysus and his followers, the Bacchae. These women, wild with fervor yet wrapped in delicate wreaths of ivy, danced beneath the moonlight, their movements both chaotic and strangely hypnotic. You might recall that these rites were part spiritual, part theatrical, blending ecstasy with discipline in ways that still puzzle historians. Historians still argue whether the Bacchae were an expression of liberation or subtle social control, but either way, their stories carry an oddly soothing cadence, like a slow chant that pulses with the heartbeat of the ancient world. You imagine the soft rustle of leaves, the faint clink of wine cups, and the whispered laughter echoing through groves where time seems to pause. The Bacchae didn't just celebrate wine and revelry, they celebrated the space between order and chaos, the gentle unraveling of everyday worries. As you lean over the ferry's railing, a sudden splash catches your attention. The talking dolphin reappears, flicking its tail playfully, as if inviting you to join in its quiet dance with the waves. You smile, grateful for its steady companionship throughout this journey. You think about how myths, like the Bacchae's dances, often find meaning not in grand conclusions but in the ebb and flow. The slow unfolding of moments that invite you to relax, to breathe, and to simply be. The ferry begins to slow even more, drifting closer to a shoreline lined with ancient olive trees and weathered stone ruins. You feel a gentle anticipation, not for action, but for the next soft story waiting just beyond the water's edge. With a deep breath, you prepare to step off the ferry, carrying with you the lingering warmth of myth and the quiet comfort of a world that never rushes, only unfolds. The soft rustle of olive leaves stirs you awake, sunlight warming your face as the day slowly unfolds around you. The air is rich with the scent of earth and sea, blending into a peaceful aroma that seems to breathe tranquility into every corner of the ancient grove. You rise, feeling the gentle pull of the day's quiet rhythm beckoning you forward, deeper into this landscape where myth and history entwine like ivy on stone. Your thoughts drift to the daily life of ancient Greeks living near the sea, the fishermen casting nets at dawn, the bakers tending their ovens, and the potters shaping clay with slow, deliberate hands. These everyday moments, though humble, were the foundation of a world teeming with stories and meaning. The ancient diet, rich in olives, figs, and honey, was simple yet nourishing, a quiet testament to a life lived in harmony with nature's pace. Historians still argue whether the idyllic portrayal of ancient daily life masks harsher realities, but either way, the slow, repetitive rhythms of these routines hold a certain soothing charm. Like the steady beat of a drum lulling you into calm. You pause by a small fishing boat pulled onto the shore, its weathered wood telling tales of countless voyages. You imagine the fishermen sharing stories beneath the stars, their voices low and steady, weaving myths that stretched the long nights into peaceful rest. Perhaps one tale featured Dionysus himself, lounging beneath a vine and sharing a quiet moment with a curious dolphin. A soft breeze stirs the nearby olive branches, and you hear the distant echo of a flute melody drifting through the air, as if the grove itself remembers the laughter and music of days long past. You find a quiet bench nearby and sit, letting the sun's gentle warmth soothe your skin. The world slows, the stories settle like soft dust on your shoulders, and you feel wrapped in the timeless comfort of myth and memory. Your eyes grow heavy once again, the gentle hum of the sea and the rustling leaves lulling you closer to rest. The sun dips low, casting long, drowsy shadows across the grove as the gentle evening settles around you like a soft blanket. You lean back against the trunk of an ancient olive tree, feeling its rough bark steady and cool beneath your hand. The quiet hum of cicadas fills the air, a natural lullaby that seems perfectly timed to ease your thoughts into a slower, gentler rhythm. Your mind drifts to the final tales of Dionysus's adventures, the quiet moments of respite after the revelry. The tender scenes where gods showed a softer side rarely captured in grand myths. You imagine him, weary but content, sharing a silent understanding with the dolphins who followed him like loyal friends, their playful chatter a soothing soundtrack to his wanderings. Historians still debate whether Dionysus's myths represent a deeper commentary on balance, the dance between chaos and calm, but the comforting idea lingers that even gods need moments to pause and simply be. As twilight deepens, you notice the sky's rich indigo stretching wide, the first stars twinkling faintly above. The talking dolphin makes one last playful leap from the water, a quiet reminder of the journey you've shared. A story told not in haste but in soft steps, designed to cradle you toward rest. You close your eyes, the memory of salty waves, whispered laughter, and rustling leaves folding gently into your mind like a warm embrace. The slow ebb of the ferry, the quiet songs of the grove, and the gentle presence of myth combine into a peaceful mosaic. Your breath slows, each inhale and exhale matching the steady pulse of ancient stories whispering through time. You feel the world soften around you, the busy thoughts fading like distant echoes, leaving only the calm comfort of a timeless tale. Rest now, wrapped in the gentle hush of a myth that carries you quietly to sleep, where gods, dolphins, and the slow turning of the sea continue their endless dance. The night deepens softly, and with it, your thoughts become lighter, drifting on gentle currents like leaves floating on a slow stream. There is no rush here, no sudden turns or sharp edges, only the warm embrace of stories told in quiet tones and steady rhythms. You feel yourself sinking deeper into this calm, each breath drawing you closer to a restful place. The murmurs of the sea blend seamlessly with the rustling of olive branches, creating a soothing symphony that hums beneath your eyelids. The soft glow of stars peeks through the darkness, steady and reassuring, like ancient eyes watching over you with quiet kindness. In this gentle space, you are free to let go, to release the day's worries and welcome the peaceful hush of night. The myths you've traveled through are not just tales from long ago, they are companions on your journey to rest, their slow cadence a lullaby that whispers comfort and calm. Now, as your breathing slows and your body relaxes, feel the stories folding around you like a soft blanket, carrying you softly into sleep. The gods and dolphins will keep their watch, the waves will keep their steady rhythm. And you will drift peacefully in between. Sweet dreams.